A new kaiju has been added to KU, a reskin like most kaijus, but not of a kaiju anyone ever owned. This is FEI MAO, the reskin of the unreleased Kaiju Little Godzilla. In this video, I'll talk about three major things. FEI MAO, the likelihood of next week's kaiju being something really cool. And finally, I'll propose a concept for a kaiju that could replace one of KU's most wanted. Starting with FEI MAO, this is the reskin of a kaiju that was made for the old game, but could never be added because the game was taken down. Little Godzilla, now refitted to FEI MAO. Surprisingly, this is probably currently one of the most complex kaijus in the game. You might be surprised by the shocking price point of 240,000 G-cells and level 75 Able Cross. But it so far seems to be worth this price. Keep in mind the recent price changes that made other kaijus expensive too. Most kaijus are around 100,000 G-cells now. The kaiju introduces a lot of new mechanics, which are explained in its description. Mark single targets with Frost Flare or multiple targets with Winter Hail, granting yourself massive buffs to every single stat. Marked targets are vulnerable to special effects from FEI MAO. Using both of your melee attacks will overcharge their next use, causing additional status effects to marked targets. The gist of this is that FEI MAO can mark enemies as prey to give itself an advantage in fights. Oh, also, you unlock a hat at level 100. I haven't checked out the balancing stance of this kaiju yet, but it's sounding like this is a very powerful mechanic. A very strong kaiju in a deceivingly weak-looking form. I've seen some criticism of this kaiju saying that it's too unserious, but it's coming from Little Godzilla. So that doesn't make much sense to me. In case anyone is concerned, the owners confirmed that kaijus who were related before don't have to be now, and that Heisei Godzilla won't be like this. Moving on from FEI MAO, you might notice that only one kaiju is left who was revealed in the shadow teasers but isn't out yet. This monster, which looks like it could easily be an Endgame kaiju. That means one of the strongest in the game, better than every other kaiju in the roster. But if it's not an Endgame kaiju, I think there's one other thing it can be. In a past video, I theorized that this could be the replacement to a Fire Kaiju Game Pass, like Thermo, Burning, or Volk Bio. This is because it's captioned Concentrated Ember. It's confirmed by a message from the developers that the Game Pass kaijus will all be either reskinned or replaced by original kaijus. That means that some won't just be the same kaiju as before with a new look, but all new. Hopefully you'll keep your levels from the old ones though. Anyways, this kaiju has a very high chance of being soon. Very soon. The last of the shadows shown before the game came back almost a month ago. On to the last thing, a design concept I had made for FEI MAO's adult form. A new kaiju that could replace a Frost Pack kaiju, but could also just be a regular late-game kaiju, both things KU really needs. The Wang Mao concept isn't a reskin, even though it looks kind of like Godzilla. It is, however, inspired by Heisei Godzilla. Heisei Godzilla has a cat-like face, which fits well with FEI MAO's design. There's two ways they can do its requirements. First, it can just be made of Frost Pack kaiju, the spiritual successor to Frostbite Godzilla. Of course, if this design isn't the kind of thing people want to be in the Frost Pack, it can instead have these second requirements. Second, it could cost 500,000 G-cells and level 75 FEI MAO, along with 500 kills total. To keep up with the idea of FEI MAO being a predator with a prey bar, its beam creates a path of lingering ice spikes. Charging its hand with ice gives it elongated power claws that have extra range speed and damage until they break to normal after 3 melee moves. It can control the battlefield with a variety of ice structures, like a wall of ice that damages enemies, even more if they're stabbed by it as it's being summoned. A field of spikes and an ice bomb, kind of like Rose Bio from the old game. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and hit the bell to keep up with KU news, especially if the 6-armed kaiju ends up being announced soon.